everybody, it's Alyssa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a video on how I annotate and tab my books. I've gotten tons of questions on how I annotate my books, so I decided to go ahead and make a video on it. I have not been annotating for very long, maybe a month or two. My methods of annotating may change in the future, but for right now I just wanted to show you guys how I do it, what my colors mean, and everything like that. I'm going to try to make it as in-depth as possible so you guys can just like understand what I'm saying. I know the thought of writing in books is like, you just don't speak of it, you don't do it. I realize that it doesn't really matter, and if it's a book that you really love, then you should make it your own, make it unique, and have your own colors and everything in it. That's just my opinion on annotating. I think that it's an amazing thing, but for some people it may not be your thing, but I do have ideas in this video for people who don't enjoy writing in your books as well. So in this video I'm just going to be telling you how and why I annotate my books. If you're wondering what annotating means, it basically means that you are writing in your books, writing thoughts, tabbing the pages, which is not necessarily what annotating means, but basically it's just when you write in your books your thoughts in certain parts, underline, things like that. I like to annotate because I like to look back at certain scenes and I can tell which emotion I was feeling at that certain scene, flip to that, and then read what I was feeling at that time. It's also really good for rereads because say you read a book and then you went back and read it a couple years later, you can see what your thoughts were at that time, and then you can also see if your thoughts change. So that's what I really like about annotating, is that I can go in the future and read my thoughts. One negative thing I guess you could say about it is that if you're ever wanting to sell your book or donate it, then your thoughts and everything is going to be inside the book, which does get really personal sometimes because I have a lot of scenes that resonate with me pretty well. So I personally wouldn't want to donate it somewhere and someone to see all the things that I'm writing in the book. I only annotate books that I know I'm going to keep or ones that I'm going to love, and if I don't end up loving them, then it's just something that I'm just gonna get rid of because I honestly like don't want people to see the comments that I make in these books half the time. And I like doing it because it's fun, and I don't know, some people find it annoying because you can't really read through the book, focus on the story because you're too busy focusing on annotating, and I think that was what my problem was at first. And the first book that I started annotating in was The Vampire Diaries, and as you can see I don't have very many tabs because I started in the middle of the book when I decided to start annotating. When I first started doing it, I didn't really enjoy it because I felt like I was stopping in the middle of what I was reading to write down or tab my feelings. But as I started doing it throughout more books, then I realized how fun it was, and I started really enjoying it. And as you can see, a lot of my books start to have more and more tabs, and you can also see how much you love a book series with as many tabs as you have in them. So you can see the books that I love the most because they have the most tabs. And I don't personally annotate all of the books that I read. I mostly annotate series, books that I know I'm going to keep. So if it's like a single contemporary book, say like I recently just finished 5 Feet Apart and I didn't annotate this because it took me like 2 days to read and it's a really small book and I didn't feel the need to annotate it. So that's just an example. I don't really annotate single books. So now I'm just going to talk about what I use. So I have this little pouch that I got from an Owl Crate box, and it's from V.E. Schwab, which I've never read any of her books, but I like that this is like the only bookish related pouch that I own, so I just use that. It says Kel wore a very peculiar coat, but I like the colors of it. I keep all my annotating stuff in here, so it is pretty full and all of my stuff is in there like that, as you guys can see. So I'm going to show you what I use, and then I'll also have the links for everything that I use down below. So first I have whiteout, and I mainly have this in here for my planner, but if there's something that I write in a book or misspell something, I like to mark it out and rewrite it just because I hate misspelling things, so I have that in there. I have sticky notes, which I'll get back to, and then I also made this key, which I'll get back to in a little bit, but I wrote it on an index card. I stuck all the tabs on here, wrote what they mean, and then I like laminated it by taping it around so it's sturdy and it can't get dirty, and it basically just has like what everything means on here, just in case I need to go back and see what everything means, even though I've already memorized it now. I have my tabs that I use. So here are the tabs that I use. They have 7 colors, and I found that these are the tabs that I love the most. I get them in a huge pack on Amazon, like literally It's like over like 1,400 pieces for like $8 on Amazon, so I'll put the link for it down below. It comes with like half of the like arrow tabs and then the rectangle ones. I prefer the arrow ones, but I'm gonna use all of them so I don't waste them. I feel like that's the best thing to get, is that pack on Amazon, because it's so cheap, and these tabs are really, really good quality. They're see-through, so when you put them on the page, it doesn't cover up the words. You can also write on them, and they're not too sticky where they ruin the page. They're just like the perfect amount of sticky, so I really recommend these, and it's the perfect amount of colors for my opinion. And I also found these really cute ones on Wish, so there is different kinds that you could find. Like I found these on Wish and I got them just because they were free and I only had to pay for shipping, but they have different emotions on their face, and it comes with a lot of them, so you can buy like cute sticky notes and stuff like this for pretty cheap if you want something funnier, but I prefer the really pretty colors because it just makes the book look really pretty. And then I have all of my writing utensils. So first I started with highlighters. So I started with this set of highlighters because it had every color. It had almost every color of the tabs. I got these on Amazon as well. There's these pastel highlighters, and I started using these, and I do still use them, but then I found this pack of colorful pens at Walmart, and these are the Papermate Ink Joys, and this whole pack of pens was like $20, but the pens are really, really good quality. Here is what all of these look like, and I use these to write. So sometimes I'll highlight in green and then write my thoughts in the green pen, and that's what I like to do sometimes, or I'll just underline with the color if I don't feel like highlighting. So it all just depends on what I'm feeling. I don't necessarily use more than the other. I highlight or underline. So that's just all the materials that I use. And going back to the sticky notes, I use these when I don't want to write in the book. So for example, I'm currently reading The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chosky, and I have a sticky note on the front keeping track of the different characters that are being introduced in the book so I can remember. They're in certain houses and everything, so I just wrote them down so I could remember each character. So when I'm reading, I can flip back to understand what I'm reading, because this is a very high fantasy book, so it's hard to remember some things. So that's an example. And if you also don't want to write in the book, you can tab it and then you can write your thoughts with the sticky note and just stick it in that page. And sticky notes are really, really cheap. You can get them at like the dollar store, so that's one way to do it. So now I'm going to get into what each color means for me, and then I'll also show you and read examples from each book just so you guys can like understand what I'm saying. So pink is moments that I love, and it's mostly between relationships, like romance relationships. Sometimes I'll tab them for just like a family relationship or like a moment that I really, really love, but usually it's a romance, and I try to keep it mostly romance just because I want to be able to go back and read like really sappy, cute moments. So for example, in The Six of Crows, and if you guys don't want to be spoiled, then like skip this, I guess, but this is a moment between Kaz and Inej, and I usually like to write like who's it is between, just because I personally like that. It's a scene between Kaz and Inej says, "You know I can do it, Kaz, and you know I'm not going to refuse, so why ask?" And then it's in italicized that he's thinking in his head, "Because I've been looking for an excuse to talk to you for 2 days." And I thought that was really cute, because if you've read Six of Crows, you know Kaz is like a hard ass, so just wanted to give that as an example because I love their relationship. So that's an example of pink. Then orange is memorable moments or quotes. So important quotes and important moments that I think is going to be really important in the future of the story, or just quotes that really resonated with me that I want to be able to look back at. This example is from City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then like don't watch. But as you guys can see, I have a green tab up here and an orange tab. And in this scene, Magnus is talking about how he had a dream of a city of blood with towers made of bone, and blood ran through the streets like water. So I feel like that's kind of like foreshadowing of something that's going to happen in the future books, so I marked that down as like a memorable, important moment because I felt like that is like foreshadowing. Then yellow is one that I use the least. This is for like world descriptions. It's mainly for fantasy books, describing like what the world is like and everything like that, if that makes any sense at all. Or I use it if I have a question about things, or I use it to mark off like different sections of the book, like in Six of Crows. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but there's different sections of the book, and I just used a yellow tab to mark off each section. So for example, in The Vampire Diaries, Alaric, the teacher, asks all of his students to come over to his house and have a party, and I marked it off and I said, are teachers even allowed to do this? So that's an example of like me having questions about that because that makes no sense to me. And then another example is like world descriptions. In the City of Lost Souls, it has the definition of a ward, which is a magical fence system. So it's things like that that I'll highlight so I can remember what certain things are in that world that is in that book. Green is funny moments, moments that make me laugh. So any humorous thing. There's a lot of them in Clockwork Princess for sure because that book made me laugh a lot. And I don't know if I'll be able to find the exact moment, but when Will kept calling Gabriel Lightwood Gabriel Lightworm because his dad turned into a worm. I laughed so hard and I don't even know why, but he called him a worm a couple times in the book, so I highlighted that every single time because he kept calling him Lightworm. I don't know why it was so funny. But then blue is sad moments, just scenes or quotes or anything that make me sad. I know in Six of Crows there was a couple sad moments, but the main one is when Kaz has to swim across the water with his brother's dead body. That's probably like one of the most impactful, like sad scenes in like any book I've ever read. Here's an example of like how I do it. I highlight in the blue and then I write in the blue as well, and I wrote using his brother's dead body as a raft and I put a sad face. The light purple is character descriptions or relationships between characters. So it's a new character being introduced in the book and it describes the way they look, I'll highlight it. Or if there's people that are being introduced in like certain relationships, then I'll highlight that as well. Like saying someone is someone's sister or something like that, I'll highlight that. So for example, in The Vampire Diaries, when Alaric Saltzman was introduced, which is the teacher, it says he had sandy blonde hair, worn a little long, a build of an athlete. As he turned around, Elena also saw that he has a boyish smile. So things like that, just describing how a character looks, I'll do light purple. And then dark purple is scenes that make me angry, annoyed, frustrated. I'll use dark purple. And I use dark purple because I feel like that's the color that doesn't really fit with all of the other colors. So that's why I use that one. So there's a lot of scenes in the Vampire Diaries book that makes me mad. Like when like the whole popularity stuff makes me really annoyed. When Stefan asked Elena to marry him after they've known each other for like 2 weeks. Those are examples, mainly the Vampire Diaries, and then there's like just some like characters and stuff that make me angry. And since I don't have a dark purple pen, I always use black because black reminds me of anger, so I use black pen to write my thoughts for that one. That was my colors and how I annotate my books, and hopefully this video wasn't too long and boring. Like I said, I wanted to give as much information as possible. If you guys are interested in annotating your own books, and hopefully this video will help you with that. Like I said, you don't have to have nearly as many tabs as I have in my books. You don't have to use as many colors. You don't have to annotate at all. You could just tab if you wanted to. I know some people just like tab their pages, don't underline or anything, just so they can look back at the page and reread it. Like I said, I know a lot of people who use sticky notes or index cards or anything like that, or they just type in the page number on their phone. They'll tab it in their book and then they'll just type what they thought about that certain page, which that would be too much for me because I would have to pick up my phone and then I would get distracted every time. I personally made this key and it made it a lot easier for me to focus on annotating because I love it and I use it as a bookmark, and I just dropped it. But make yourself your own key. You can even just put it on your phone or anything. I just used an index card and I used tape to make it nice quality. So I hope this video was informational. If you guys have any questions, then just comment down below. I was inspired to annotate my books by a lot of different book YouTubers, so I'll put the links down below for a bunch of different videos that I watched on annotating, just so you could watch other videos to see how they do it as well. Make sure to follow me on my social media if you guys would like to follow me, and I also have a PO box if you guys would like to send me anything. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!